Quick note, happy Zelda month! If you aren't already aware, the YouTuber Peanut Butter Gamer dedicates the whole month of November every year to the Legend of Zelda. If you're looking for some great Zelda content, be sure to check out his channel. I love Zelda 1. Despite the fact that I was born in the 90s and wasn't even around when it launched, there's something about it that makes me nostalgic. Nostalgic for a time I never even lived in. Weird. I've played through the game a few times, though only on mobile or PC emulators which don't control too well. But this Christmas I'm looking forward to spending hours digging into Zelda 1 on the mini NES Classic, and maybe even having another crack at the game from hell. Anyway, it's enough to say that I'm really pleased Nintendo is leaning so heavily on Zelda NES as the foundation for Breath of the Wild. I mean this in a few ways. It's obvious that it's trying to recapture the spirit of the first game in 2016, that being boundless open world exploration and freedom, but it's also packed with little nods to the NES title. Miyamoto's original vision for Zelda 1 was to create a miniature garden people can keep in their drawer, a vision that was manifested brilliantly, leading to meteoric success. And now today on the Switch, IG Aonuma wants to follow in Shigeru's footsteps by creating a miniature garden people can play in their, well, garden. Today I thought we'd look back 30 years to the series' cradle, and pick up 5 of my favourite little references to the game that started the legend.
Number 5.
Stronger blue monsters. One thing that Zelda 1 did pretty well with the limited storage on NES cartridges is the amount, and varying difficulty, of its enemies. From the simple Octorok to the mighty Darknut and the bunnies? Zelda 1's overworld and dungeons were crawling with awesome foes. And to add another level of depth to these, most of them have a blue counterpart to their red or orange standard. Blue enemies are noticeably tougher, taking more hits, moving faster, or dealing more damage, and are oftentimes some of the most difficult enemies in the game. Breath of the Wild is throwing back to this mechanic from the first game. The Great Plateau is crawling with bokoblins, mostly red, pretty simple enemies. But while the red ones take a few hits to defeat and deal little damage, their blue brethren can take a lot more of a beating before going down. This is a cool little nod to an old school mechanic, and a nice simple way to make basic bokoblin camps more of a challenge. Just imagine a blue version of this handsome guy.
Number 4.
The Guardians. Yep, the Guardians. Do you remember the 20-foot tall laser vomiting spider robots in the 1986 classic? No? Well, how about the Octoroks? The Octoroks are without a doubt the most iconic enemy from the first game in the series, sort of like Zelda's version of the Goomba. And this enemy made such an impression on lead developer IG Aonuma that he designed the first enemy for Breath of the Wild after them. He felt that the Octoroks seemed huge when playing the first Zelda, but because a huge octopus would be gross, created the sci-fi themed Guardians instead. I personally think they're really well designed, and the fact that they're a throwback to the very first Zelda enemy is a nice touch. I'd like to see this Link eat a whole Guardian though.
Oh boy! I'm so hungry I could eat an Octorok!
Number 3.
Twin Peaks. This isn't actually a reference to anything in Zelda 1, but instead a reference to something found in the game's original manual. Namely, this artwork, which shows Link stopping for a break on a cliff, looking out on the huge world below as the sun sets. This artwork has inspired these huge twin mountains in Breath of the Wild, and I can't help but think that Link's location in the art might have inspired the Great Plateau too. And as much as I'll want to leave the Great Plateau immediately after completing the shrines when I get the game, I think stopping for one sunset to have a look at the scenery in the game won't be a terrible idea.
Number 2.
The game's Japanese logo. While every Zelda game since Ocarina of Time has had the same traditional Zelda logo in both its Western and Japanese releases, it wasn't always that way. Beginning with the first game, the Japanese logos look like this, which translates simply to Legend of Zelda. The deliberate choice to revert back to this logo after it hasn't been used in 20 years is definitely an attempt to evoke nostalgia in old school Japanese gamers, a nice little nod to the series' origins. And while it's a reference to old school Zelda in general, The font and positioning of the kanji are almost identical to that of the NES game's logo.
Number 1.
Spectacle Rock. Anyone who's played the first Zelda knows where Ganon's lair is. You're warned by an old man in level 8 that Spectacle Rock is an entrance to death, and indeed it is. Level 9, found by bombing the left rock, is the largest and most difficult dungeon in the game, half as big as the game's overworld. And we know from the official Zelda website that Spectacle Rock is making a return in Breath of the Wild, this time a lot bigger than before, with a resurrection tower present in the right rock, meaning it's a fast travel point. Yet, I know, Spectacle Rock is present in a lot of Zelda games, at least in some way, but the fact that Nintendo themselves pointed out that this is the same Spectacle Rock from the first game means it's a direct reference to the original location, which is the most famous iteration of the rock formation, and it could possibly serve a similar purpose in Breath of the Wild. Is it just me, or does this wall here look a little suspicious? The very same wall which you can bomb in Zelda 1. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Have you noticed any references to Zelda 1 in Breath of the Wild? There are a few more that I couldn't fit in this video. Leave your favourites in the comments below, as well as any other video suggestions you may have. Cheers guys, and I'll see you next time.